Seeing no one, move to the next one. Approval of the meeting minutes of August 21st, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any clarifications, additions, subtractions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, abstain?
Abstain, 1,
Okay, okay. Consideration and potential action rate customer assistance grants administered by Operation Fuel. Would that be Scott?
Yeah, Kelly's gonna introduce Operation Fuel. As the board knows, I am on the Operation Fuel board. And we have, I hate to even say 2018, we've had Operation Fuel take over our assistance program that we used to implement with our towns. We are just gonna give an update because it's been a while. There's a bunch of changes we're gonna ask the board to, Water Bureau to consider. And I don't want to steal Kelly's thunder, so I'm gonna stay there.
Okay. Kelly Shane, Chief Administrative Officer again, for those that know of our partnership with Operation Fuel. I'm delighted to have Operation Fuel staff here today to share the history of our partnership, share some success stories and some stories about their interactions with our customers, and those that they've helped through the program, and also share the tremendous needs still within our member communities. And also talk about the planning that we're doing jointly for our continued partnership into 2025 and beyond. With us today from Operation Fuel, if you guys want to stand up so I can share, Brittany Bergstrom, the Director of Assistance Programs, Ebony Pajan, our Energy and Utility Case Manager, and I think she's going to share some stories about working with our customers, and Mike Taraj, a Policy and Public Affairs Associate. So they're here today to share their story. I'm going to have Brittany come up and provide the rest of the presentation, but I just wanted to share some of my thoughts in working with them. But first, I couldn't have this presentation without recognizing Jess Fenner from our staff. Jess, stand up. Jess is our supervisor of collections, and she's an amazing human who does so much work for our collections team and manages our collections team and works directly with Operation Fuel and any other group that shares grant programs such as CRT, but she also works with our customers directly. She manages the shut-off season, works tirelessly with our customers, with our meter department, with utility services. Just a pleasure to work with, and I want to just share that she's here today to support Operation Fuel. So just to go over the preamble to Brittany's presentation, we've successfully worked with Operation Fuel, and they've managed our customer assistance grants program since 2018. Funding for the grant assistance program has come from the board, as well as now donations from our generous MDC customers. Interesting to note, if you'll recall when we shared that we updated our bill over the summer timeframe, we added to our paper bill the opportunity for customers to actually fill in a donation amount to Operation Fuel, whereas before we only had the ability to add a donation on our KUBRA electronic payment portal. Since we added that to our paper bill and allowed customers to fill in an amount, we've more than doubled our donations every month. So whereas we were receiving about $700 in donations through the electronic portal, we're now receiving an average of $1,500 a month in donations, which equates to about $18,000 more for the program. So we're really excited about that, and we're hoping we're just happy with the generosity of our customers because that helps us give more grants through the Operation Fuel program. 2025 is a renewal agreement year, so that gives us the opportunity, and we wanted to have Operation Fuel come and share a lot of the information about the program because it gives us the opportunity to update some grant qualification requirements and maybe other requirements like lessening the maximum of the grants so that we can provide grants to more customers through the year and keep our program application open longer throughout the whole year is our goal. And I won't share what Brittany's going to share, but she'll share with you about the program and how it has had to shut down early the application process because we've run through the current funding. They also have been implementing over the summer a new application program, which is easier for our customers to be able to apply and submit their requirements for the program and to be qualified. So we're happy about that, and we can support that and probably see a quicker turnaround time for our customers to receive their grant commitment letters. And so we're looking to expand our reach to more customers in need. And with that, I want to turn it over to Brittany and let her complete the presentation. So it's just this area. Okay, back and forth, yeah.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for having us here tonight. Thank you to Scott for being on our board and Jess and Kelly and the rest of the team for supporting Operation Fuel since 2018. Thank you particularly to those that helped make the Add a Dollar campaign a reality and to those that are donating to support more customers through Operation Fuel. For those of you who don't know, Operation Fuel is a Connecticut-based nonprofit organization that was founded in 1977 to lead the way so current and future generations can thrive with secure access to heat, water, and power. Last fiscal year, or fiscal year 23, we were able to support over $5.8 million in emergency assistance programming, supporting 8,000 households in Connecticut and more than 23,000 individuals. As mentioned, we've had this partnership since 2018. Thank you for the ongoing support. The pledge amount from MDC has been consistently $50,000 per year, plus customer donations, and that is inclusive of all administrative fees. So in total, we've been able to support over 760 households in Connecticut, and I would like Evany to share some of those success stories.
Hello. I have a few customer success stories to share with you all. First, I have a young disabled veteran, family of 6, 4 are minors. The father is the only one bringing in income. Dad contacted Operation Fuel, stating he needed assistance with oil and water. He was without oil for 2 days. During that time, he received a shutoff notice for his water. He was feeling very defeated. He provided all required documents to be assisted. When the application was processed and approved, he was so grateful and thankful that he began to cry. He said the support from the Operation Fuel program helped his family to stay warm and safe. He also was able to cook and bathe his children. That melted my heart because that's what I love to do. To hear that we were able to help this family life a little easier during a difficult time makes it all worth it. I also remember helping a Miss Doris, who's on a fixed income, family of 4, 1 a minor. She is the sole breadwinner in the household. She contacted us to assist her with her water shutoff. She did not want to get a lien to be placed on her home. She was extremely stressed and worried. She provided all documentation needed to complete the process of her application. Once the application was processed and approved, she was so grateful and thankful, she wanted to buy me lunch. I told her that it was a nice gesture, but it wasn't necessary. I was just doing my job, and I love to do it. I told her that I hoped that everything would be okay with her family. She stated that how awesome the program is, and she did not know what she would do without our help. I wanted to say thank you for the partnership, the investment in our customers, and the joint impact we have been able to make.
And so So Ebony only shared a handful, just 2 stories of the hundreds that we've been able to support by this partnership. So again, thank you for making that possible. As mentioned, it has been historically a $50,000 per year pledge, including all of our administrative supports. And with that, we're seeing an increase of the cost of living. We're seeing a need now more than ever. And so in 2023, we actually had exhausted all of the funding that was allocated by October and had to shut down applications. And last year in 2024, we actually had to close down applications in May. So that just shows the kind of increased need and the lack of resources to be able to support our shared customers. Currently, we're receiving anywhere between 10 and 20 calls, emails, outreach from customers seeking support for their MDC bills. And unfortunately, we've had to turn many of them away due to not having funding currently. So Ebony, again, is on the front line speaking directly to those customers. And so she's going to share a couple of those stories.
We had a customer call in asking for assistance with her water that was about to be shut off. She was hospitalized on dialysis and was unable to make a payment. She was stressed out due to not being able to come home if her water was going to be shut off. She unfortunately, I had to notify her we were out of funding, and I had to refer her to one of our Connecticut information lines to seek additional resources. She is not the only customer we have had to recently turn away. I listen to these stories weekly and have to refer them to other agencies, but we ideally would love to assist them on our own directly.
So looking ahead and moving forward to 2025 and beyond, we're requesting a pledge increase from $50,000 to $100,000 to support MDC customers through Operation Fuel. That's inclusive of administrative fees. By having a larger annual pledge, we can better strategize to keep our application system open for the entire year and be able to support at least double the amount of families that we have historically been able to support each year. Kelly mentioned that we recently implemented a new platform for an application portal that is called NewOrg. NewOrg allows us to customize what we're seeking in terms of meeting eligibility requirements for Operation Fuel grants based on what the assistance type is and also what the utility partner is hoping to see in an application. So we have the ability to receive documentation for all of the bullet points listed, income verification, a current bill, and payment history through NewOrg. Again, we launched this platform over the summer. We did have an energy assistance season for deliverable fuels that we just closed, and so Ebony has been able to use that system in real time, and I'd like her to share a little bit more about that.
NewOrg allows us to add required documentation specific to MDC applicants, where customers can upload the required proof of income information, bill, and payment history to our portal. It collects everything needed from customers to review their full application for assistance. NewOrg also uses customers' self-reported information and calculates a vulnerability ranking based on OpFuel's point of system. So while OpFuel does review the application in the first come, first served basis, we also review within priority vulnerability levels first. Those with a vulnerable age household member over 60 or under 6, those with a medical need or disability, those in a current shutoff or pending shutoff situation will be triaged based on their specific situation. NewOrg also does SMI calculations based on reported income, which is verified by our team.
So the system triages the applications that come in who have a higher vulnerability level, so we can serve those most in need first. With these efficiencies that the platform offers, we also have the support of MDC in being able to provide documentation that might be missing from a client's application. So if we receive an application and it's missing an MDC bill or the monthly payment history, rather than prolonging the need for reaching out to the client and getting that information, MDC is willing to partner to be able to provide that information directly so we can expedite the review process. As we increase our efficiencies and increase the number of customers that we're able to serve, that also increases the bandwidth of our team to provide excellent customer support, to be able to review those applications, to be able to notify them what is missing, provide the opportunity to submit missing information, and hopefully approve as many applications as possible. So with this increased funding, our new portal efficiencies, we hope to reduce the potential for shutting off applications months prior to the end of the year. And we hope that you'll approve this $100,000 pledge for Operation Fuel for our shared customers. I welcome any questions that you have.
Brittany, just to clarify for the board, so the $50,000 that the board approves is built into the budget, and there's only $4,600 roughly, which is the admin fee, correct?
Yes, currently we have $6,000 toward admin and
Okay.
$44,000 toward the program.
Right, I'm sorry, 6,000. So $44,000 is going directly to our customers, no other water customers. That money is held literally in our bank. When we get the process and the paperwork from Operation Fuel, then Kelly's group credits the account. So the money, there's no $44,000 changing hands, but there is $6,000 going to Operation Fuel. The other thing that we've talked about with Operation Fuel is, someone over there from Operation Fuel will know this, but there was a law passed recently for the Pura regulated water utilities. And what is that bill where there's a low income? Yes, well, discovery. So the utilities, Connecticut Water, Aquarion, and is Regional doing this?
Just Aquarion.
Just Aquarion. So there's a law passed that allows a bunch of criteria. If you're a certain percentage of the median household income below the poverty level, then you get certain credits for your water bill. So that's allowed under Pura. We are not regulated by Pura. But we are thinking in the same terms of how much our typical water bill is $800 to $1,500. So we were giving $500. So if someone's average water bill is only $800, we're actually giving them more than half. So we don't want to encourage bad behavior. We simply want to help people who need it, and we don't want to encourage people to continue year after year just to wait to get their $500, and then shut-off season ends, and then they wait for the next $500, and then so we're very conscious of that, working with staff. So we are going to propose that there'll be some changes made to that $500. It might be $350, what have you. But as an example, right now, based on the admin fee, we can service about 100 customers, plus or minus. If we changed it to $350, we could serve 125, 130. And if we added monies to this $50,000, if the board so chose to make it 100, then we could basically almost double that with the number of customers. And how do we come up with $100,000? We had this past year about $48,000 in grants requested, but we could not fund because we didn't have the money. So that's where we kind of came up with the extra 50. But again, the important thing is it is MDC's money. It stays in MDC's accounts. It's once everything's approved with the application, with the grant, it is deducted off of the bill for the customer, MDC customer only. Thank you.
No worries. Questions? Yes, sir, Al.
Yeah.
Commissioner Taylor.
Mr. Chairman, can someone tell me how much money we contribute to riverfront recapture? How much is in the budget for this?
1.2 million.
Okay. I guess my off-the-cuff reaction basically is let's take the $50,000 from that and move that over to this program. This strikes me as being something that is a reasonable and valid use of that money. It's just a suggestion. I leave it to my fellow commissioners to act upon that or to decide and whether or not they wanted to come from some other place. But, I mean, I would just say that we clip it out of Riverfront Recapture and give them 100,000 and go on about our business.
Very good. Anyone else?
Yes,
Mr. Gatto?
Commissioner Gardo here. I did a quick look up, $50,000 in 2018, is that when this started? Yeah, is $63,000 today because of inflation and stuff, and we did have, for a certain amount of time, the CCF was up, it has come down a little bit, but I think that Commissioner Taylor has a very creative way of handling this, and I think of funding it, and I think it's deserving. And you know, there was that guy in New York City 15 years ago who says the rent is too damn high, and for a lot of people the water bill's too high, and this. I support this, and I also support Commissioner Taylor's suggestion.
Yes, thank you very much.
Right, and then Bud, after you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just had a quick question in the budget that received, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to look right now, but maybe somebody can answer this more quickly. Do we have 100,000 in this budget for them, and do we have the 1.2 already in Riverfront?
We do.
So it's a balanced budget as is right now. Thank you.
It is,
I just
yes.
wanted to see if that was already.
Board hasn't approved it yet, but
Oh, I
but we had
understand.
to,
I
we
just
had
wanted to know if in the.
yeah, we
budget-
had to put it in because we didn't want to, undo something later, so
I just wanted to know whether or not that was in there
It
as.
was. It is.
Thank you.
Commissioner Salemi?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'm glad to hear that this program is achieving.
Anybody, your mic's off.
I'm sorry. Glad to hear that this program is achieving its goals and that we are helping people. I think it's, I always think of water as the most essential thing, for any human being. I mean, the city of Hartford had a water system before it had, electric or gas or anything else. So I do think that, that it, as Scott said, that we had another 48,000 that we could have, that would have been approved or we could have used. And I think it's appropriate to ask for the difference, to see if we can do that. The only thing I would say is that, to put it in the budget and have the ratepayers, actually pay an additional amount in a year when we had, a significant surplus. I think the ratepayers have been good about this. We certainly, already contributed 50,000 to this, and I'm sure that they'd be willing, if you ask them, they'd be willing to put another 50,000 in it. I think most commissioners are. But I do think that ask them to add another 50,000 out of the rate rather than from a surplus of 5 million. I think we could come up with the 50,000. But that's a suggestion. I would agree that we should increase it to 100,000. I think it's going to be a decision of the board, basically, to how we come up with the money for it. But that's my suggestion, that we not actually make it a new charge against the rate. So,
Mr. Chair. Yes, just to clarify, Commissioner, so the additional 50,000 does not affect the rate that we've identified, the 11 cents. So the 11 cents increase is all. There's no more additional charge to what we presented at Board of Finance or at.
I understand, Scott. I think what you said, though, the way I understood what you said was that the 50,000 is built into it already. So it is. It's built into the rate. We could, if we didn't build it into the rate, the rate's not going to change from 11 cents to 11.99999 cents for another $50,000. But what I'm saying is that, we don't have to take it out of the rate. We could take it out of the surplus. We could we could find it from somewhere else if we wanted to, that's all.
And to your point, Commissioner, we did. So that's my point. When we presented at the last meeting, we did not include the 100,000, and we had shuffled issues and budget items so that we could add the 50,000 if so the board chose to agree and raise this rate. So the 11 cents that you saw with the town and with the Board of Finance, we haven't changed that rate.
Yeah, I get that.
Yep.
I'm just saying that we could, in a year we have a big surplus, we could fund it out of surplus, and it won't, you know, and it won't affect anything, but I'm, like I said, I'm willing to wait, see what it's a decision with the district board, so.
Okay. Is there, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Curry. Kelly, I had the conversations with Scott about the, about the proposed increase and several concerns. I understand Scott is proposing, and I'm sure you've had the conversations of lessening the individual contribution, but, and Scott touched on it a little bit, but my concern is, and I think we all agree that the needs are great and the funding not so much. But my other concern is that we have repeat customers. And we have customers that probably, if there's applications available, have them already filled out or ready to submit because they know what the process and how it works. And with so many customers in need, every time I hear first come, first serve, I have a problem. And my problem is that those repeat customers, I believe, need to step back to allow new customers to participate. And if there's still funds available, then the repeat customers can participate as well. But we can't continually have, and I'm willing to bet that there's customers that are repeat customers every year for many, many years. And yet we still have someone over here, a new person, a new customer, new marriage, new child, who can't get a help because this person knows the system and knows how to use the system better than the other person. So what can we do to make that work better?
Currently, Operation Fuel in our current agreement has a rolling 12-month allowance for an application to be approved. Like I said, this is an opportunity to look at those requirements and build some other requirements into that, lowering the value of the maximum grant. So just to give a little more detail, the reason why Operation Fuel asks for a current bill, we don't always give the maximum amount. We have to see what that current outstanding balance is. Somebody may have an outstanding balance at the time of their request or their application gets approved of $280. They get an approval for $280. Sometimes the money lasts a little longer that way too. So we're not always giving the max amount. It really depends. But to your point on allowing for more customers, Jess and I have had that discussion many times. And
I don't want the 50,000 just for more customers. I want it for those
the right
customers in
customers.
needs. Is there any way we can set parameters? I mean, we're talking about lowering the threshold for each customer. Can we put parameters on repeat customers to say they'll get 20% less than whatever the value is that we're going to be providing to these customers in need? And that's just the number I'm throwing out.
yeah.
I just say this, the answer is yes. We don't know what those details are, Commissioner, but we do agree one of our concerns is repeat customers that really are, in a sense, gaming the system. You know, remember, our shut-offs start in March, and then so if someone has in October has a bill that's $500 and they get the $500, well, they don't have to worry about paying because shut-off season's over. So there's ways to do exactly what you're suggesting, Commissioner. We just need to work out those details.
And that vulnerability assessment that Brittany was discussing with their new platform, I think we can put some parameters into that as well, because that identifies those most in need. And I think I heard Brittany say, and I think she just shared with me, that they do look at certain assessment criteria in there, and that it does bring out those most in need at that time.
Well, if I can just follow up, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I can't speak for the other commissioners at the table, but for me, you're asking me to take a leap of faith to say, yes, here's 50,000 more, and I don't know what the parameters are that I'm voting on.
No, I'm sorry. We're going to bring that contract back to this board
Yep.
for your approval. So if the board so agrees, Board of Finance agrees to add 50,000, we will bring back a contract for you to review
To this committee.
to this committee and to the full board, so that you completely, your concerns are met.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
We will share those terms with you before. This is just to share with you the request from, for the program to be funded for more, and we're working out those terms between now and the end of the year. But we will bring those to you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lewis.
Yes, we should be talking about funding more people. That's what we should be talking about. And it's a myth that the assistance programs, all people do is scam them and get, listen, that percentage is so small of people who actually abuse these programs that it's not even worth the conversation. But if Riverfront Recapture could get millions, I don't even have anything else to say about people being, let me tell you something. I have had utilities shut off with children. It's a nightmare, okay? $100,000 and we're debating it? Make it make sense.
And I just wanted to point out one thing. For medical, if a customer has a medical issue, we do not shut them off. They can, we have a form, they complete it, and so we would never shut off a customer with a medical issue during shut-off season or any other time for non-payment.
People who normally wouldn't even need these assistance programs find themselves now needing them, and that's why the increase. It's not more people wanting to repeat. It's humiliating, first of all. Nobody is happy to go and fill out the application. It's totally humiliating, for one. So, again, the percentage, that shouldn't even be the topic here. We should be talking about how can we get more money to make sure that people are warm and are comfortable, especially with children, especially the disabled. The percentage of people who are actually saying, I'm gonna get up tomorrow and scam Operation Fuel is less than zero.
I think I'm less than zero. Yes, Commissioner Taylor.
Yeah, I guess my concern here is, we need to be very careful here, because what we're talking about here, I mean, it's part of America's pastime to scam the system. I mean, to how to play the system. I mean, that's basically what we train people to do. How do you negotiate the system? How do you work your way through it? But yet and still, I mean, in a sense, I'm concerned that because folks are poor, that somehow we're going to say, hey, you know, you can't do that. I think these people know their business, and I think that they know how to discern who needs it, who doesn't, and who's a scammer, okay? And I just think we shouldn't be getting into their business. I think, you know, I think that the $100,000 should be a no-brainer, and we should go on about our business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody on the phone? All right. Now I've asked the clerk, can we add to the, well, we'll have to actually have a motion. Let's have, should we wait for the motion to start if we want to?
You have to make a motion to.
I move we increase from 50
Okay,
to
motion,
100,000.
okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Does anybody want to add to that motion? Commissioner Taylor? You want to have anything to the motion? Okay, you've
no,
expressed your sentiment, as has Chairman Curry. Okay, so we'll add those notes. along to finance, which our chair is here to, so he's heard them. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, great. Consideration and potential action, Ray, Goodwin Dam, lead market participant. Go ahead, please. I'm gonna get some water.
Yeah, no problem.
John, if we need anything, John Gale, if you need anything, I'll be right back, all right? That'll be you.
Just give the chairman a minute, he's gonna get some water. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
One thing Thank you.
Just figure out, next water bureau won't occur before January. Well, maybe we can bring the terms to the full board.
We just have a special meeting.
Yeah, whatever, yeah, but we'll take care of it.
Okay, do you have the ability to look and see who received it? Going back several years?
Yeah.
I'd like to see if you've identified repeat.
Okay.
Thank you so much. It's okay. Oh, thanks so much, yeah.
And just for full disclosure, I get paid as much as the MDC commissioners get on the Operation Fuel, just to be clear.
You get a sandwich?
No.
Oh.
All right, good to go.
Go.
All right. Good evening, members of the Water Bureau. David Kavanaugh and I are here tonight to talk about the sale of power that is generated by the district's Goodwin Hydroelectric Facility up in Hartland, Connecticut. The power that's generated at this facility, which is referred to as grid facing, is supplied directly into the power grid and sold into the ISO New England electric market. Over the past several months, the district has been evaluating options for how it sells the power that it generates. In order to participate in the wholesale electric market, you need to be what is called a market participant. So for the approximately past 8 years, the Connecticut Municipal Electric Energy Cooperative, or CMEC, has acted as the district's lead market participant and has represented the district in the electric market. The district is now proposing to attain market participant status itself and act as its own lead market participant. Oh, thank you, Kelly. Excuse me. Participating in the wholesale electric market does require specialized knowledge, and Energy New England will assist the district as it begins participation in the market. We will quickly discuss how and why becoming a market participant will benefit the district and what steps the district will be taking to become a participant. This includes the approval of a resolution authorizing the district for ISO New England membership. So really quickly here, for those of you guys that don't know, the Goodwin Hydroelectric Facility is located at the Goodwin Dam in Hartland, Connecticut. That dam was built in 1960. It impounds what was formerly known as the Hogback Reservoir, which is now known as the West Branch Reservoir. In 1986, a hydroelectric facility was added to the dam. As you can see there, that picture is of the inside of the hydroelectric facility. It has 2 turbines, each rated at 1.65 kilowatts. It produces about 12.5 million kilowatt hours annually, and that power, as indicated, is directly fed into the ISO New England power grid. So, in February 1986, corresponding with the construction of the facility, the district entered into an electricity purchase agreement with CL&P, with formerly CL&P, now Eversource. That 1986 agreement had a 30-year term. It was basically a power purchase agreement for the power that we supplied directly into the grid. In 1998, as many of you guys probably know, energy was deregulated in Connecticut. And as a result of that, there was an amendment to the original energy purchase purchase agreement, excuse me, whereas there was a buy-down agreement with CLMP. Basically, what they said was that during energy deregulation, they deemed that the price they were giving us was above market rate, so they bought down they gave us a lump sum payment and bought down the price that they paid us going forward. So that agreement ended in 2016, or excuse me, that agreement ended in 2016, and that's when the CMAQ agreement began. So CMAQ acts as the district's lead market participant in the ISO New England wholesale electricity market. And we've been using them for 2016. I think you guys know CMAQ. They're a joint action agency that supplies power for 6 member municipalities in Connecticut. And that contract expires in December 31st, 2024. So what we've been doing over the past year is we've been evaluating 2 options on how to sell our power. The first is similar to the CMAQ agreement. You know, an outside firm acts as a district lead market participant. When I say outside firm, there's really only one firm that does it that way. That is CMAQ. So they would act as our asset owner under ISO New England market rules. They manage and bid our facility in the ISO New England electricity markets. And the settlement of power, that basically means the money we get paid for the power we generate, goes into their account, and then they pay us monthly. So the second option we evaluated is the district attains market participant status with ISO New England, and we act as our own lead market participant and asset owner. So as a municipal market participant, and then a consultant would advise us, the consultant Energy New England, would advise the district on how to manage the facility in the ISO New England electricity and capacity markets. And the money that we get, that we generate from the power sales would go directly into our accounts, and those settlements would occur biweekly. So I'm going to introduce now David Kavanaugh from Energy New England, and he's going to talk a little bit about the benefits of this to the district.
Thank you, Alex. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the Commission. Dave Kavanaugh of Energy New England. As Alex said, I serve as the Senior VP of Regulatory Market Affairs for Energy New England, as well as the Executive Director of E&E Transmission. A little background about Energy New England. Energy New England is a LLC. We're a co-op formed in Massachusetts. We serve about 25 municipal systems across the 6-state area. From 1.5 megawatt peak to 160 megawatt peak. We provide risk management, power supply, regulatory services, manage about 14 generating assets in the markets, from gas turbines to wind turbines to hydro to solar to terrestrial wind as well. So we have a pretty good fleet we manage. We also provide regulatory lobbying service in the Mass State House for rules coming out of the state of Massachusetts, as well as we also provide white labeling for EV programs for our member municipal systems, as well as energy efficiency programs. Looking more directly at the benefits of participating in the New England market with support of Energy New England, we do provide a more timely access to the information. Our commercial team is active every day in the market, bidding generation, bidding load into the market as well. And we were always in contact with the folks that we're supporting as to how they want to participate in the market. So we're very active in that space. Our back office also does a lot of the back office work and provides feedback on a regular basis as to making sure the settlements from the ISO are correct and verified and communicated to the customer in that regard. We also provide, which I don't know we were getting at before, is timely consultation and advice on the risks that there are on participating in the market. The Goodwin Dam is really, as a settlement-only generator, there's no energy bidding necessary. It just produces energy and is paid for that at the market rate. However, it does have a capacity position in the New England market, and that requires a certain set of experiences and knowledge how to manage that, penalty rates that they would be subject to if they don't perform. We do that on a regular basis. We do that monthly with our clients to make sure that they understand what the market's looking like, where they're positioned in that market, and what mitigation strategies there may be available to them if they wish to change their position. That's a standard practice with us. The greater flexibility over market participation is certainly in the capacity markets. Again, I mentioned a more detailed revenue accounting as a regular basis. And if so choose, the district could participate in New England directly. Currently, I represent 26 entities in the need pool structure. That's where the rules are formed that govern the marketplace. We debate those rules. The district could participate directly in that space as well. And lastly, when you look at the services we provide, Energy New England's service offering is a significant discount to what you were previously getting with a lot more functionality. Next slide. So we were founded in 1998 as a getting ready to set up 4 markets. It should be 98. So we're getting ready to launch into wholesale electric markets. It was really built as a risk management tool. Folks knew that they were going to get into the wholesale market. They knew that New England was deregulating. Municipal systems have a certain carve out in certain of the states, but they want to be positioned to have a shared services organization that would allow folks to leverage knowledge and experience and then get an opportunity to buy power at a better rate and manage the generation. We manage about 250 megawatts of generation in the region for our customers. Again, we provide energy market advisory, risk management, regulatory services, lobbying, and we provide EV programs to our members as well as energy efficiency, pretty much a full suite of products. So again, we're across all of New England, and I'll pause there for any questions on what I've shared thus far.
Anyone? Nope, go ahead, please.
So really, the next step is, execution of the agreement with us. It's near. I think it's final now. We're just getting some final sign off on that if we move forward, and then register as an ISO New England market participant and a need pool member. And the ISO New England participation requires us to go through a membership process. I'm currently gathering the requirements, and I'll be providing them to Alex and Kelly for execution based on board approval. And we're getting that organized so we're ready to go. There is a requirement, of course, that the board provides a resolution authorizing Kelly or somebody in the organization to sign off on those agreements, the ISO membership agreement, and then, of course, the NEPOOL second restated agreement. Little bit nuance, ISO New England is the wholesale market operator, and the district would join the pool, the market through the execution of the membership service agreement. And the NEPOOL is the FERC-approved governance structure that allows folks to debate the issues. There's 2 separate agreements. And we're targeting January 1 of this coming year. We'll get membership status and then transfer the Goodwin Dam generating asset under the district portfolio. It would settle directly, as Alex said, through the district. Weekly, the transaction would take place. You would receive payments from the ISO. E&E employees would act as on your behalf in that system to make sure the settlement works correctly, the resources are in the system correctly, and market positions are managed consistent with our discussions. Pause there for any questions.
Yes, Commissioner Salemi?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You asked for questions.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So, a year ago, I think I asked about our hydro facility, and this is an older facility. It's been there for a long time. We did have another hydro facility you're aware of at Colebrook Dam, just up the road from there. So we don't have that anymore. It's been 3 years, Scott, without that, or 4 years?
2019, we started. What's that?
2019.
Yeah, 2019 is when we
Okay,
removed
yeah,
it.
it's been a little over 4 years without that one. And my understanding, each time I ask about this, is that the revenue that we can get from this is restricted by these agreements, by these former agreements. And so my first question to you is, I should say, what are the chances for the increase in revenue by becoming part of this the New England group. My understanding is that Collinsville, over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, put in a hydro facility on the same, basically, the water that goes through ours goes through theirs. And my understanding was they were getting something like 8 cents a kilowatt, and we're like under 4 cents a kilowatt. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about that, if there's anything that
I can talk about that a little bit. So Collinsville is a new plant, right? So Collinsville probably had some sort of agreement, whereas I'm not sure if they're getting RECs or some other agreement when the REC program still existed in Connecticut, which is now ended. But they are able to qualify for Class 1 RECs because of a couple of differences between their facility and our facility. Theirs is technically run of the river, which means that the water passes through it without any impoundment, whereas we have an impoundment, obviously the reservoir behind the dam. And also that facility is new. So the Class 1 renewable rules in Connecticut was that any facility built before 2002 could not be considered a Class 1 renewable. That's the key difference between Collinsville. We sell our power at Goodwin on the wholesale electric market. So with Energy New England or CMEC, we're going to be getting the same rate, more or less, you know? And I don't know if you want to go into more on how the rates work.
Alex, just to add to that, we went around and around at the legislature a number of years ago, trying to get that language changed. We actually tried to get the state to consider us as new, as under the, after 2003, in that we weren't able to be successful there. So that, but we did try that desperately. I want to say that was 2016. I don't remember the date, but we can get you the dates.
We've tried several different ways to get around those rules, but none of them actually worked out. So
I thought that, I mean to interrupt you, but I thought that the state is actually helping to fund what I would call little tiny hydro plants all over the state of Connecticut. And I thought, well, okay, so if they won't consider this new, so let's build a new one, right next to this one, and that'll be new, and we'll get that. Maybe we can get them to give us the money to do it. Well, I'm serious. I know it seems like oversimplified, but why can't we do that? If all you need is a new permit, let's take out a new permit and build a new one right there at the dam.
Well, just remember, and we did this life cycle cost analysis to replace and upgrade Colebrook, remember? So, and Alex did that life cycle cost analysis. So the cost to replace the equipment was about $6 million.
Yeah.
The payback based on the rates would have been a 50-year payback.
yeah, new construction of small hydro is not a winner.
We
It's
actually,
not a financial winner.
we actually did look at a low hydro unit at this facility. The challenge, and we did that, Jimmy Rendazzo did this, whatever the date was, looking at the life cycle cost analysis, Commissioner, and it just doesn't pay for the expense. One of the challenges we have on these units is we have a minimum flow that we can, the turbines will operate effectively, 90 CFS plus or minus in that range. If we don't have 90 CFS in the flow of the river, the Francis turbines cavitate and you can't make energy. So there's a limitation on this.
My understanding is, the Colebrook was a totally different type of hydro facility than this one. Okay, and the electric rates have changed recently. So maybe the payback will change. But it's very hard to accept that another hydro plant using the same water that goes through ours gets twice the payback that we do. I just don't understand how that could happen.
Yeah, and I'll agree with that. And what you said about the small hydro, the state's looking into helping them. They haven't done anything yet. And I think if anything does happen with that, we would probably get a little more revenue for our hydro. But the state hasn't done anything yet. They have like a working group.
Well, it's just the pressure on alternative forms of energy and on, non-carbon producing forms of energy, and it's just,
Fully agree with you. Fully agree.
okay, I'm sorry, but I just wanted to make sure that.
That's
you know,
fine. Not a satisfactory answer, but Massachusetts has vintage issues as well. After a certain age, you're not counted, so.
Questions? Oh, Commissioner Karifi.
Just one. What is the benefit to our ratepayers for MDC to become a participant in this power pool?
Well, minimally, the discount rate that we're working with on providing services is direct payment back to the ratepayers. We cost less than CMEC. You're getting settled more efficiently. Every week, you're getting your funds returned to you. And I think certainly the other part is risk management. We are very active in making sure that this resource, which is a capacity resource, we have engagement as to what are the coming risks, how do you avoid any reduction of your revenues by taking on penalties you would see in that capacity market. I don't believe that was occurring before in terms of how things were managed, but directly is the reduction in cost of the services.
Well, and just to clarify, and Kelly can explain this because she was in the middle of negotiation, CMAQ was asking to raise the rates. And we felt we had 3-year contracts and we were trying to come to some terms that we could live with, because now we're not, they're not managing our Colebrook Reservoir. So we felt it was important to go in the direction we did, which was to bid it out and to save money by becoming our own lead market participant. But Kelly, you want to talk about that negotiation?
Yeah, I struggled with CMEC this past year, and we continued to extend our contract. And even though we lost one of our hydro facilities several years ago, they continued to increase the price. With us becoming our own lead market participant and the services that are going to be provided if we choose to move forward with E&E, their service model is to mitigate risk, and also our direct link with ISO. And I think the way that CMEC was reconciling, they just reconciled once a month, and they did all the management of that, correct?
Yes.
And so we just got a check once a month from them, versus getting the income back and forth right from ISO, right from the sale of the electricity twice a week. But on top of that, the fees that CMEC charged per month were up to $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year. Whereas, and I can say that because they were a governmental entity, if you will, and we're talking about less than half of that per month in this new agreement.
And my last question, is there any impact on our employees?
No. Alex is plenty busy. He does all of our energy stuff. And right, Alex, you're fine.
Yeah.
And other than the financial setup of the accounts, E&E has staff behind that are going to help us prepare our accounts with Bob's staff in Treasury. Once we have it going, it'll be simple.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Gale, Commissioner Gale.
Yeah, thank you. You didn't say this in your presentation, so I'm assuming your LLC is not a nonprofit.
We are not-for-profit.
You are
Yes,
non-for-profit.
yes, we're electric co-op under Massachusetts 164.
And you're owned by municipalities?
We are. We're owned by 6 municipal systems.
Is it possible someday for the MDC to become a member, or is that a closed group at this point?
It is a closed group currently.
Thank you.
Bounce. So in essence, Alex, I guess you'd say the pitch here, or Kelly, I'm sorry, the pitch here is that we're going to get more services for like half the cost.
Less than half.
Less than
And
half.
there are other Connecticut municipalities that E&E supports as well. I didn't know if you wanted to share that.
Yes, thank you. We represent Wallingford, one of the biggest municipal systems in the state. They've been a customer of E&E since, I think, 2012 or 2013.
Oh, very good. Yeah, that's a little bigger system.
A little bigger.
Okay. Seeing no other questions then, can we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries to, go your route. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Alec.
Okay, report regarding the lead and copper rule customer letter.
Good evening, everyone. David Banker, Assistant Manager, Technical Services. So today we'll just be providing an update on the lead and copper service and our submission of our initial inventory to DPH. All right, so thank you, everyone. Let's see, it's not. Oh, next slide.
Click on to the,
Yeah. You may be frozen for a second here.
There it goes.
Oh, there we go. So, thank you. It's all my fault, I'm sure. So the lead and copper rule revision went into effect on October 15th. A week or so before that, on October 8th, EPA finally issued their final lead and copper rule improvement. So that's going to go into effect 3 years from now. We're not going to dive into that tonight. But on October 15th, we submitted our initial inventory, which is over 105,000 water services, included both domestic and fire, to the Department of Public Health. We've also posted a map with our survey results onto the district's website. There's about 4 links, on various pages, so it's easier to find your way there. What's on the screen here is a little carve out of it. We'll dive into it just to show you briefly in 1 second. All right, so right now appearing on the screens is the map. It's a GIS-based map that's available on our website. If you zoom in a little more, if you want to put in an address in the upper left-hand corner, then you can search for your specific address you're looking for. So on the map, green indicates that both the MDC side and customer side are known and that the material does not contain lead. Orange indicates that either the customer side or the district side within the roadway are unknown, or both could be unknown. And then yellow are galvanized services that may require replacement. We're still looking into a little more on our side to see if we can identify if there was ever previously any lead before that. So as long as we can determine that, then those will go away. Otherwise, we'll have to address them. So if you want to try typing in an address there, and then you can zoom to it if you click on it, and then now you see a green star for this property. Click on the green star. There's a pop-up. It says the address, 275 New Britain Avenue, City, Newington, utility side, which is within the roadway, copper tubing, customer side, which is on the private property going to the foundation, copper tubing. So that's why this star is green, because both sides of the service material are known and they don't include lead. And we can jump back to the presentation if you like.
Questions so far?
I guess so, yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Curry, go ahead.
I'm looking at the map, and there's a lot of stars, and they drift out into non-member towns.
So
Are we responsible for non-member towns as well?
it is, yes, all of these services within our service area. So if it's an MDC provided water service, then we are responsible for that information.
Okay, thank you.
So on October 16th, also the district released a press release announcing the information, our website, and the information from our inventory submission. So our official total from the first submission to DPH on the 15th is we have 14,027 unknown or services with unknown materials, either on our side, the customer side, or both potentially. And then there's 43 services which have that galvanized pipe that we have to look a little further into that may require replacement. So just, as a percentage-wise, that's about 14% of our customers across the district. If you wanted to compare us to some of the other utilities in the state, Aquarian Water Company had over 100,000 unknowns. They had, similar high numbers with the Regional and Connecticut Water. And then another utility, so the city of Waterbury actually submitted all of their services as unknown because they don't own, they've stated that within their ordinances, they don't own any of them, so they didn't maintain any information on the materials, so they have 100% unknowns. And then the next step is that within a month of that October 16th due date, then we have to notify any customers that have an unknown or galvanize requiring replacement service. So we'll have to send out notices within the next month to those 14,070 water customers. Let's see. So if you wanted to see a specific breakdown, this is the breakdown by town of where those services with the unknowns are and where the services that are galvanized that may require replacement. So for the letters, the letters were actually developed by EPA and then the Department of Public Health. So about 90% of the language really isn't negotiable. The remaining 10% we were allowed to make some adjustments to. So we've worked with our consultant to develop these letters. We've basically finalized them, sent them to the Department of Public Health. There's a final step for the letters. It requires DPH approval before we can then send them out to the customers, but we also wanted to make sure that we inform the Water Bureau here so you're aware of these notices since there are so many that'll be going out. We're looking to break them into approximately 3 groups. So it'll be groups, mailings of 4,000 to 5,000 letters per group and break them up into weeks over the next 3 weeks. So the first mailing will go out by the end of next week. One mailing each subsequent week so that we can notify all the customers before November 15th, which is the legal requirement from the EPA requirements. Yes.
Would I like to ask a question
Go ahead,
now?
bud.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Commissioner
Okay, so
Salemi.
you have this list of 14,000 unknown materials, right? But you said that some of those we know our side, we don't know what's on the other side. Is that's within the 14,000?
Yes, the 14,000 is total. So if you wanted a rough breakdown, it's about 12,000 unknown on the customer side. So from the street or kind of like sidewalk area to the foundation, and then approximately 2,000 unknown on the district side, or potentially the district and the customer if there's no record for that account.
And I would say, I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that we'd have to dig up their service to figure out what it is. We get in the house, we can see what comes in the house as a service.
Yep.
I would assume too that on some of these are the old Ford box or meter pit, the old style one, where we know for sure what it is up to the meter because we determine what the materials are going to be up to the meter. It's copper. And then past the meter, from the meter to the house, we just don't know, but most likely it was the same material if it was in the 50s or 60s or 70s. It was all copper from then on,
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
the galvanizers, the substitutes for during World War II, not getting enough copper and, we had other issues with that along the way too. But, so the 14,000 is, it sounds like a big number, but truthfully, out of that 14,000, it sounds like a good number of them just need to be checked without digging them up or anything like that. And they may go away as an issue as well. Am I correct about that?
Yep, you're correct.
I just want to make sure I got that.
So just touch on a few things real quick, and then I'll continue on. So we're working with a consultant. So we've been contacting customers where we don't know the customer side material. Working through a few towns. We started with some smaller towns. We did Farmington, South Windsor, Glastonbury, Rocky Hill. So we'll be progressing through the remaining towns, but we're working with them to send out a postcard, and I think we talked about this at a previous meeting too, a postcard out to these customers. The postcard allows the customer, if they want to, fill out a survey to say what their material is. It's on our website, so they can go there and then they can take a picture in their basement where the pipe comes through the wall and then say, my service is copper. Also, then the consultant's offering appointments then to to those customers to come out and then visually inspect to determine the pipe material if the customers don't want to determine it themselves, or if they want someone else to come and just help them, assist them with that process. So we have that ongoing. When we were working on this program also, we went through our ordinances. So it was 1962 forward. We had copper designated as a standard service line material required for any services 2 inch and smaller, cast iron above that. But for the period before that, we can't definitively say that whether it was wrought iron or not, or if it's unknown. You have to have either an ordinance in place to justify putting that material, or you have to have a record showing what the material is. So, Scott, looking at me?
Well, I'm waiting for you to say something, but I don't want to steal your thunder. But I think it's important. Are you going to talk about the 7 services that we found?
I didn't have it in here, but
Okay, all right. So this is just an important point, and this is the difference between the MDC and other water utilities. So as Dave said, some utilities said, listen, we got 100,000. And partly because it's a lot of work. The work that Dave is presenting here was a lot of work for everybody in the audience and everybody in the yard to figure out and identify. We only have 14,000. It was easier to say, well, we got 100,000 because they got till 2037 to actually replace it, right? The board also chose to say, we started early. The board, I don't know what the date was, but the board 4 or 5 months ago approved the fact that if we find any lead services, we will pay for that for the customer, right? And we've already identified 7 properties. 4 of them had partial lead pieces somewhere, and we've already replaced that. So the important part of this was when we were ready to do this public notice, we talked about this in the board at the board meetings. Imagine if the letter said you might have lead, and we have to come and remove it. The messaging on that would be so difficult to worry about the hysteria of, oh my God, I got lead pipes serving my home. So that's why we aggressively identified those first. Though all of those have been fixed. So now, by mandate that we have to send this letter out, we don't have to identify the fact that we have, the 7 services are there and they need to be replaced. It's already been done. And I had a meeting with DPH Commissioner and the other water companies 4 or 5 months ago about this very topic and others. And a lot of the water companies are not paying for the lead services on the private property. They're requiring that the customer pays for it, which I think we agree is a bad, it's a bad look, as Commissioner would say. So we want to do the right thing, and we did. And kudos to the staff to put all the effort in to really identify 14,000. You want to talk a little bit about the reason why galvanized pipe is a problem, could be a problem?
So galvanized pipe, if it was preceded by lead pipe, then the lead can eventually flake off and then get basically worked into the galvanized piping as well, so that it'll release later on over time. So then that's why one of the requirements is if you have any galvanized pipe that's preceded by lead pipe, or if it has an unknown and you can't prove that it wasn't lead at some point, then it's a galvanized requiring replacement status.
And we have been very volatile. We've been very vocal with EPA and with the state over this lead and copper rule. Our comments this year, our comments in 2016, we have said numerous times that this is a false sense of security. This program, because if you use the MDC as an example, we only have 14,000 unknowns. And let's assume they're all lead, which they won't be, but let's assume they are. We have probably 50,000 homes that were built prior to EPA mandating in 1986 to not use lead and copper solder, as you know. And so what happens? So you tell all the plumbers and all the warehouses in the country you can't use lead solder joint. We got a plumber's truck with full of lead solder joint after 1988. What happened? I guarantee you they used up all. So probably into the 90s, any home that was built prior to the 1992 probably has lead solder joints in their home. That's not NBC's responsibility. We've asked EPA, you've got to address this. They didn't. What we did as part of our program said, we're going to ask to sample the lead and copper joints inside the home because we don't want a false positive, right? We want to make sure that we say, listen, you have no lead in your service, but you still got lead in the house. We want to be able to say, well, we've got a record of it. Well, guess what? The EPA, I don't know if they listen to us, but they just changed it to say that we may offer or should offer to take samples. So we're going to take samples in people's homes if they let us, and we'll have the records of those homes that actually have lead and solder joints in their home. And that's more of a problem in any home because we add orthophosphate to our water. So the water service coming into the home is protected from lead migrating into the water. But if all your kids are gone to college and they're gone, and the third bathroom doesn't get used at all, that water sits there. And then somebody comes in and is staying for the weekend, and they use the water in the third bathroom and drink some water, brush your teeth. So the point is, we're going to be taking samples, and we're going to have those records. And if anybody says, because the testing is much more strict than it was in the past, and if there's any traces of lead, we can go back in our records and say, well, it's coming from the piping in the home. Sorry, Dave.
No problem. So just finishing up with these notices that will be sent out also moving forward, then whenever a property changes hands, so existing owner sells it, new owner buys it, we have to send a new notice to the new owner. So we'll be doing that on a monthly basis, working with customer service to get the letters of the transfers that occur. And then also once a year, annually, we have to send the customers, any of them that have a lead service, which we don't have, unknown status or GR galvanized requirement replacement service. They have to be sent a letter notifying them once again that they have that status of pipe, so they could have lead. So moving forward, we're going to continue just getting more information, gathering more records, updating our SAP system with the customer pipe materials, updating that map that we showed you also when we routinely, so that as unknowns are become known, then that information is available to the public. We're going to continue those private property inspections that I touched on with the consultant, going to the basements and reaching out to the homeowners if they want to do the survey themselves to fill out the pipe information. We are going to have, for services that are unknown on the district side within the roadway, there will be an investigation contract that goes out to have a contractor excavate at those locations of the service and identify the pipe on the district side, potentially replace that pipe if it's an old wrought iron pipe, and then also we'll be installing a new shutoff and meter pit at that time. And then, like I touched on also, we'll be continually, we have to send an updated inventory into DPH every year in July. So that'll be July 1st, July of this 2025 coming year will be the next time we send the update to them. Continue to notify the customers with the unknown and GRRs services annually. And then we have to identify and replace, identify all pipe materials and then replace any lead services by 2037.
Dave, just mentioned the grant money the grant money that we're getting for the project.
Yep. So for the work we've been doing with our consultant, both on the inventory, the basement inspections, it's a 70% subsidy provided by the state, 30% loan. And then the expectation also with any service replacements that you'll have a similar fashion, 70% for replacing services if they have lead or a lead status, and also for the investigation, the test pits to dig down to the pipes to see what the materials are.
Gotcha. With your hands up, Commissioner Taylor, then I think Commissioner Gardo, I think you had your hand up.
Yes.
Oh, you're all set.
Excuse me. My question for you is, who's going to be responsible, or who's going to take on this work? Is this going to be done by our crews, or is this going to be done by private contractors? Because I think that's going to be fairly important. And I think we need to be careful and thoughtful about that. so that we can make sure that there aren't any missteps or miscues in the process. I mean, I just get a little concerned about when we talk about replacing something in someone's home, and we've got issues about, is it on the MDC side? Is it on their side? And then my other question is, do we have to concern ourselves with what's going on insofar as the plumbing and the house itself, actually? In other words, if you've got an upstairs, bedroom, do we have to be concerned basically that there's lead there? And are we going to be responsible for that in some manner, shape, or form?
So first section, I just want to confirm, so you're talking about for the digging excavation contracts, anything like that?
Yes.
Yep. So those are all contractor services. That's also kind of one of the requirements when you're dealing with the Department of Public Health. They can't easily agree on what would be reimbursed if you would use your own internal forces, and what rate are they going to reimburse you at, versus a contract is much cleaner, because in this contract, these are the values that they'll pay per foot or per cubic yard of dirt that you remove, that type of thing. So for those excavation contracts, those will all be contractor work. For any lead within.
Will those be approved contractors, or are these just basically somebody, some guy with a shovel and a backhoe off the street do it? Because once again, I'm just sort of concerned about making sure that this process is seamless.
So they'll all be publicly bid contracts. It's required to be a licensed plumber then for excavation within the roadway. I forget the licensing class. We could get that to you as well. But they will be licensed, bonded, excavation companies, contractors. They'll be performing all the work. And then that's one of the, that's all set within the requirements of our standard contracts.
But before you go.
Okay, so this strictly
buddy,
for,
Wait, one second, I'm sorry. I just wanted to follow up on his question, but
I'm sorry.
Dave, will we have MDC inspectors ensure that the job was completed properly at the end, though? That somebody from our staff would be looking it over, make sure it's all been remediated properly and all that?
Yes, there will be inspectors present. They'll be at least overseen by a chief MDC inspector. I can't tell you that it won't be a consultant inspector potentially directly overseeing the excavation work.
Okay.
But we've also done presentations with to our own both utility services staff and construction staff on how to identify those lead line services, lead services, and what those components look like, so that it's easier for them to identify that in the field. And then we've given them our contact information, both Jessica Coelho over there, give a little wave, who's been hard at work on this project as well. I've given them our contact information. If there's any questions, they can always just give us a call.
Okay, very good. I'm sorry, buddy, go ahead, please.
Sure. And I was on the impression, though, that there are other techniques for trying to discover what the pipe's made of, fiber optic stuff where you can put it in at the valve from the house or put it in at our valve. It's kind of like a colonoscopy where you get a look inside the pipe, and see what it is.
Hopefully you clean it before you put it in there.
But I did believe that we could do that. And then the second, you can explain that. Second question is, I was just limited to residences because, for instance, schools. Scott described like had a great way of describing it. If you don't use some part of your home, for a long time, it has a tendency to build up. The first person that if you don't let it run for a long time, you're going to wind up with some, chemicals that have been sitting there. With schools, typically, I think a lot of schools have already started to do this, where after the summer, they flush the whole school out. They let the water run through the school, clear out because no one's used it, or certainly not enough over the summer with the students not there. So are we going to get involved in like a school building or commercial buildings for testing, or is it just limited to single-family homes or residences?
So for the service inventory, it's required to identify the services to each and every building, whether it's parking garage or town hall or school or some other guard shack. I mean, no matter what the use is, it's required to identify the service material on your side and their side. One of the other components of LCR that we touched upon in previous presentations is there is a requirement within, I can't remember right now, 5 years or so to work with all the towns to actually sample, collect multiple samples, so 3 or 4 samples within each school, each like grade school, so through up to 6th grade or 5th grade, depending on the town, collect samples of the water quality in those schools for lead, and then also same thing with daycares. So that'll be a later provision that'll be coming in. More to come there.
Did you get the part about the using a camera or whatever?
Oh, yes. We've met a few times with the other water utilities, with Aquarian, Regional, and Connecticut Water over the past year or so, just getting ready for the lead and copper rule to be taking effect. And then we, in those groups, they talked about there is one technology that puts it's not a camera, but it's like a glorified sensor up the pipe that's supposed to work to be able to tell you if it's a lead pipe or not. The other utilities within the state have given it a try, and then they said that it just doesn't work. It's not able to negotiate any bends within the pipe. If you're trying to access it from where the meter is in the basement, try to get it in there. The first time it hits, 45-degree bend, 90-degree bend, it's like you can't get it in the pipe anymore. So they've still ended up digging up the pipe, digging up the services to try to ascertain the materials. They found that it just had not worked when they tried it.
Gotcha. Vice Chairman Gale, please.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Gale. Great website. While you've been talking, I looked up my house. I looked up other people's houses. It works. But I saw that one of my daughters had something called a WICL clamp connection. What is that?
So it's a wrought iron cement line service. So it's an iron pipe, but there's a cement lining on the inside of the pipe. So it's not lead, so you're all set. And then just clamp connection, it's the type of connection that goes back to the water main. So it was a special fitting used, once again, doesn't contain lead. But that's one of the reasons we noted those connection materials, because when you got to using iron pipe, like wrought iron pipe, it's rigid, so it's harder to make the connection to the water main. A majority of so we had some different connection types that we used. That's one of them. There's also one of the common ones was just using a piece of copper. So sometimes you'll see a copper connection if you keep clicking through some of them. But we wanted to note those materials so we'd know that those services didn't have a lead connection to the water main, because there were a few of those that had been replaced over the years.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mandyke, do you have a question? Did you have one? No? Wasn't you? I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Curry, thank you.
Curry. In my town, most towns, I'm guessing, requires heading to town hall and either the contractor or the homeowner taking out a permit. Will that be required for this work?
So there'll be permits for street opening permits. So whenever our contractors are digging within the public right-of-way, then they have to get permits to be able to cut the roadway or do that type of work. So there are permits involved for that portion.
And what about replacing the pipe from the sidewalk to the foundation?
So for within the public right-of-way, it's just those street opening permits, and then to the foundation, then so I believe it wouldn't be an additional permit, but we do have forms for the homeowner to sign off with for the releases for a contractor to do that work.
Okay. No permit required from the town?
It's actually a utility service permit.
Yeah.
So we're actually
It's ourselves.
it's ourselves. We're permitting ourselves.
The town only permits and inspects work within the house or within 5 feet of the foundation, I believe. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when he's talking about the public right-of-way, there is a road cut permit we take out with every town, whether it be us or the contractor working for us, if that's the case, that how we're gonna handle it. If it's MDC operations working in a public right-of-way, they also work with the towns on that end. When you get from the property line into the house itself, then you'll pull a permit with our utility services office, which is permitted and inspected by us only. When you get into the actual interior of the house, that's interior plumbing, which is your building official.
Any idea what the cost of this permit is? for
Our
MDC?
permits are no charge.
No, it's no charge to them, but there's no cost to us at all? It's just a blank permit with no charge to anyone?
No, we don't charge for our permits here. If you're looking
have
for
to pay the-
costs and overhead as in the organization, yes, there is.
You don't have to pay the towns anything?
No.
Okay, good.
Unless if you do the interior plumbing permit.
Right.
If you have to modify anything within the foundational walls, they do have jurisdiction 30 inches outside the house also. If there is that would be with the town itself, not the MDC. But our water and sewer permits are no charge to the contractor or the homeowner.
But if you're replacing the pipe, you're going to get involved in that,
Possibly.
possibly. So I guess my question then would be to Scott, can we reach out to the municipalities and for any of this work done that would require the homeowner to take out a permit, which would cost dollars, that they waive the permit fee for this work because of all the good things MDC does for our communities?
Yeah, oh boy.
Are you talking about internal plumbing?
If it's attached to the work being done outside.
Yeah, I mean, sure. If so this board chose the right decision to pay for the new water service that goes from the property, from the foundation to the right of way. And because we're doing that, we will get the 70% grant that Dave mentioned, at least in Hartford and East Hartford. But if the discussion is that if there's any additional plumbing that has to occur inside the home that would require a permit from the town, we'd be happy to request all towns to waive that fee.
Great.
Yeah, sure.
Commissioner Slamy?
Yeah, I think, so practically speaking, Mr. Chairman, if you're to build a new house, you take out a plumbing permit, somebody has to take out a plumbing permit, it's got to be taken out by a licensed plumber, and the water main is considered part of that permit. But practically speaking, because the MDC has, send somebody out to look at the water main when it's installed, the town accepts the MDC's, in most cases, the town will accept the MDC's inspection of the service for their own, and not necessarily have to send their own, but it is included in the permit. The permit identifies a water main. So if you were to change the water main going to your house and it comes to your house, I do believe that the Connecticut Building Code determines what the materials are for that, together with the MDC. If you had a Ford box or a meter pit, what goes on the house side of that meter pit is controlled by the Connecticut State Building Code, not by the MDC. We don't care what's on the other side of it, or we didn't used to care what's on the other side of it.
Well, we're talking about a permit fee, not the material, right? So the question is, do we have,
somebody has to take out
a permit
so that it's inspected.
So the question is, I think the question was, if there is a permit required within the home, for example, it could be a situation where gate valves break inside the home, which is not the responsibility of the MDC, and so the homeowner has to hire a plumber. If they have to hire a plumber and do additional work, and there's a permit fee that's issued by the town, would we ask the towns to waive that fee? And we will ask that. Whether they
do that, but what do we do in Hartford, like what we're doing in the North End? So we bring the new sewer lateral into the house, but somebody's got to work on the inside. They have to hire a plumber. They got to work on the inside. Do they take a permit out?
Yes, we do.
And do they pay for the permit, or do we, as the city, waive the?
What's the fee? What's the fee, Jason? Jason, introduce yourself again. I'm sorry.
Jason, Command Center Utility Services Manager, and we do pull permits with the city for the sanitary, and it's based upon the first $1,500, $2,000. It's like the city went up on their cost, but prior was like $150 for the first $1,500, and then it goes up $10 increments for every $100.
So I think it would be about the same on the water side. It's the same sort of thing. You got a main that's coming through the foundation wall, and then somebody's got to work on the inside, which is definitely covered by the Connecticut State Building Code, not necessarily by our work. So, but I think you're right. I think it's the same kind of arrangement. The district could go to each one of the towns and say, okay, how are we going to handle?
We're happy to ask.
The inspection and all of that, so yeah.
Good luck. Happy to hear now.
Yeah. If I just want to, because we didn't get an answer to Commissioner Taylor, and I really want to make sure we're clear here. This is really important. Commissioner asked, whether or not it's our responsibility if we find lead solder joints in the home. The answer is no. that is not our responsibility. But we are going to notify the homeowner and educate them on, what you can do and should do, and flush your systems, the blue water scenario, all those things associated with not running water in vacant property. So, but we are not responsible, and we're hoping someday EPA develops some kind of regulation that addresses this topic.
Dave, you all set there?
Yep.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Next, we have a discussion regarding our wholesale water agreements and rates, and I understand there'll be some meat to this, or what's happening?
Dave?
So I was just going to give a quick update to show the status with Portland, and then discussion we've had there, and then we can have further the discussion after that, wherever it goes. So Dave Banker. Touching on wholesale water agreements, Portland status. Just to remind everyone, our contract expires January of 2026, so not this January, but the following January. Currently, they have a contract to buy 0.4 million gallons per day of water, up to 1.1 million gallons per day if they need, and up to 2 million gallons a day on a max day, or within any 24-hour period. So Scott and I and other folks on staff met with them February of this year, February 22nd, 2024, and then again in August 29th. So Portland's status, they've been looking for an alternate water supply in order to provide their system and potentially buy less water or no water from the district. So they drilled test wells in May 2024. They completed their testing. They found an aquifer layer that may give them 1 to 2 million gallons per day. On August 7th, they had a special town meeting to approve funds to build a permanent well, or drill a permanent well. So that's the $1.3 million there that they approved. According to their reports within their Water and Sewer Commission, it says that the well was scheduled to be installed in the middle of October. And then again, they had another meeting then on September 4th where they approved $6 million, and that would be to build a well house and then build the associated piping connections and treatment if they need it for their connections to connect the well to their system. So the existing Portland water sales and contract value, so for the 400,000 gallons per day, the annual value of that's $772,000. There's another that's with the customer service charges associated with it. So $741,000 is the value of the water sales per year, and then $30,000 on top of that's the fixed charges. The past few years are shown in the table there for the revenue that we've gotten from Portland. And then just for comparison, if there's a reduction of 400,000 gallons per day, the 400,000 gallons per day represents 1.1% of MDC's annual consumption. So then the loss of that sale would represent a 4-cent increase to recover it within the existing water structure. This is based on the 2024 CIP, not the proposed 2025, just for clarity. I haven't looked at those numbers, So we've had some internal discussions for options to offer Portland. When we met with them, they've only been really interested in a short, 2-year extension to potentially ensure that they had enough water through the next 2 years for the next 3 years while they get their well online. So we've discussed for that short-term extension for the 2026 and 2027 calendar years, the potential of having them up their take-or-pay to 600,000 gallons per day. They'd still maintain the 1.1 million gallons per day safe yield from the district. This would result in a $370,000 increase per year in the income from it, but it'd be short-term, just those 2 years. If they'd agree to a longer-term extension, then we could keep it at the 400,000 gallons per day, but we'd still want to reduce that safe yield because they haven't been using the 1.1 MGD that they've been provided. So that was just what I had prepared for an update, and then now it's open for discussion to the board.
Dave, I'm sorry if I may. You looked at raising the rates as an option instead of their take or pay Do you have those numbers? If you raise the rate by 10%, whatever the number was?
So with their sales, if you just raise the rate, yeah, 1 second. I didn't have that. Hold on. There's the take or pay sales are about 741,000 per year. So if we raise the water consumption rate for them just 10%, then that'd be another $74,100.
Okay, so the challenge we have with Portland is, well, two issues. The wholesale rate structured agreements that we have available to make changes in the near future is Portland, right? The others are, we just signed them, they're 50 years, so we can't make changes to those agreements. If you look at, go back, Dave, to that number of the 10%, yeah. So if you raise it 10%, you make 70 grand or 75 grand. If you raise it 20%, you make 150 grand. If we increase the take or pay, we make roughly 400 grand. The question really is for this committee is we have a contract that's going to end in January of 26. They've already told us the last time we met here in August, they were basically saying that they didn't make a definite at the time. They didn't tell us that they got $6 million approved from the council. So there was an opportunity for us to negotiate a long-term lease. But it sounds like, based on the recent information we received, they're moving forward with their own well. So if that's true, what they told us in our meeting was they would need water for 2 years. Practically, they'd need water for 3 years. So the question really to the board is, how do you want to address the next 3 years? And it's really 2 years, because they've got 1 year left of this contract, and then they would need, quote, essentially 2 more years. So they would need a 2-year extension based on what they're telling us. So the question becomes, what would we like to do? Do we want to raise the rate? And I know we've had this lot of discussion about raising the rates on this contract, or increasing the take or pay. The good thing about the take or pay is we want to lower they're allowed to take 1.1 million gallons average day, which comes off of our safe field. So we can't sell that water to anybody else. So we believe that this next contract, if it's short-term or long-term, we've got to remove that, because they're not paying for it. There's no benefit to the MDC to give someone an extra 700,000 gallons a day for free, with no mandate for them to use any of it. So we think we should beef up the take or pay, reduce the limit, the 1.1. And if there's this discussion about raising the rates, we're happy to have that discussion tonight. But raising the rate 10% is 74,000. Raising it 20% is 150, roughly.
Anyone?
Are we in competition with anybody for this?
Themselves, we're in competition. We're just in competition with them. But we met with.
So at what level is it considered exploitation? I mean, everybody wants to get in more money, but
right.
there must be a point here where we're gonna be highly criticized for essentially blackmailing the town by raising the rates.
No, we agree. So 2016, we've talked about this a number of times. East Hampton needed water, and we went through an exhaustive effort with the town, with DPH, with all the regulators to try and provide water to East Hampton from Portland, because Portland owns their infrastructure. So we would need an agreement with Portland. In 2015, we tried to get Portland to become either a member town or a non-member town, and they chose to do not to do anything. So we went round and round with them. Portland has, since I've been here, and well before me, Portland has always wanted to be independent. They don't want to be on the MDC's water system for their own reasons. So the question really becomes, you're right, they're moving forward with their own facility. DPH unfortunately gave them a $250,000 grant in 2017 or 18 to investigate and explore this new well. Their existing well is within the DPW garage area, so it's contaminated with PFAS and with salt. We have said to Portland in February and in August, it's an awful big risk for the town to expend $7.5 million to build a new well. And the testing has shown that there is no PFAS. However, you know, when you're taking water from the ground, there's no guarantees that you're not going to migrate PFAS into that new well. They've made decisions, and their board and their town has made decisions to move forward anyways. There's nearly not much we can do except negotiate the next. They're asking for a 2-year agreement after this last year. So the question becomes, what do we do?
What's the price? I mean, just for comparison, we're selling, or you tell me, what's the comparison between selling water to Niagara and selling water to Portland?
Yeah, so obviously,
in terms of price and quantity.
yeah, so obviously we're charging $3.80 per CCF to everyone, quote, uniform rate. They're charging their customers $5.33, whatever the number is. So when they use our water, their argument is when they use our water, they have to pay $3.80, and they're only charging $5.33 because they own the system. They have to flush their own hydrants. They have to maintain their own treatment system. So they're not able to reduce the operational expenses just because they're taking our water. Their position is, well, if we don't use your water, we basically get it for free. So in a sense, you know, it's costing them. They're losing money. Their position is they're losing money. My position is, and our position has always been, you've got a source of clean water, and it's very, very reasonable. It's cheaper than your own consumption. We think they'd be better off actually becoming a non-member town and buying out, like Glastonbury. But they don't believe that. They think that they should manage their own water system. And we've had this conversation well before I got here for numerous years. 2005 was the last time there was a big negotiation on the contract. But there is a mentality in Portland, and it's the same way in other towns, that they want to be independent, and they want to be able to serve their own customers. And there's nothing we can do about that. To your point, we don't want to gouge them, but we want to be fair to our other ratepayers, that we're securing this water for them that they're not using, and they're not paying for it, this 1.1. They're only paying up to $400,000. So the options are, we either raise the $400,000 to some number. We showed $600,000, or we raise the rate. And that's really the only options we have.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Curry.
Thank you, Commissioner Curry. And just to add to that, and John, I certainly agree with you. But keep in mind what Scott said, they're marking our water up 30% and selling it to their own residents and holding us hostage with 1 million gallons of water that comes out of our safe yield that is just in limbo. So there's got to be some happy median, whether it be an increase in the rates. I mean, you could say, we'll only increase it to what you charge your towns, your own residents. But I'm suggesting, and I hope I'm wrong, I hope Portland's well is a success forever. But I fear that that's not going to be the case and that they're making an unwise decision. Especially when you could buy our water and cut the water cost to their own town residents. But, you know, can we say, okay, we'll sell it to you, I'm not suggesting, but we'll sell it to you for what you sell it to your residents? I mean, you know, on the surface, that sounds fair, but it's still a 30% markup.
But interesting, we don't do that with Niagara.
I agree with
I mean,
that.
they sell, I don't know what they sell it for, but we don't base our charge to them on what they're selling it to the end user.
Yeah, and most of the water they buy
There's no
from
logic,
us,
there would be no logical consistency.
most of the water they buy from us doesn't go to the customer, it's used internally, but be that as may, and I understand, but how do we?
Bad example then.
Where do we draw the line, Scott, where we get back our safe yield? Because somewhere down the road, we're gonna wanna hopefully sell that to someone, and not negatively impact our budget.
Yep. So the one thing that we proposed is we can make more money by raising the take or pay from 400,000 to 600,000. The good thing about that is, in terms of perception, is that we're only asking them to pay for what they use, right? We're not asking them to pay more. We're just asking them to use more. Or we can say, listen, you can take or pay the 400,000 gallons, but we're not going to give you 1.1 million gallons of you know, basically a safety net. You know, in the first 3 years of that well, they could have major problems. So, and I've already told them, and we've discussed this here, is that if they give up that diversion permit, the 1.1 million gallons, which was a major fight in 1995, right up to 2002 when we signed the agreement with Farmington Watershed, if they give up that diversion permit, they'll never get it back. And so it's a huge risk for them. But, so you could say, listen, take or pay 600,000 gallons a day. We reduced the 1.1 to some lower number, significantly lower, and say, we're not asking you to pay more. We're asking you to pay your fair share, just like everybody else pays, but we're expecting you to pay for what, you know, there's got to be some compensation for MDC to put this water aside for 30, 40 years for a community to say, we're protecting you and your safe yield for a long time without any compensation for it. So, or we can say, we're just going to raise the rate for the next 2 years. My concern with that is there will be a perception of you know, the public, like what happened in Glastonbury with the customer service charges. But I think it is fair to ask Portland in the next 2 years, or a new 2-year contract, if that's all they want, is that we're asking you to take or pay 600,000 gallons. MDC benefits, we're not charging them any more than, we're just asking them to use the water that they have a contract for. We lower this 1.1 down to some number below 1 million gallons, probably 700,000 gallons in that range a day. And hopefully they decide to stay with the MDC. Or, you know, we don't have too many options. It's really raise the rate or not, or raise the take or pay.
Or accommodation.
Or accommodation.
Yes, Commissioner Gale.
And I think we started this discussion a while ago. What this discussion brings into focus for me is this whole concept of safe yield and what is the cost of it. And it seems to me that what we as what the MDC as an organization needs to do is to establish a policy with respect to safe yield, because I don't think we want to be in the business of, you know, just doing it as a one-off with Portland. It would seem perhaps a better way moving forward of establishing what is the cost for us setting aside water for you, and then apply that to anybody for whom we're doing it. Now, I don't know for whom else we are presently setting aside a safe yield for.
And to your question, to your point, that's exactly the point. this is the only contract that's gonna come up in the next 40 years or next 30 years. So we would apply this to everybody, but we'd have to wait for those contracts to expire.
Don't we, I mean, I, as a commissioner and other commissioners, don't we need to know who else it's gonna get applied to? And whose ox is gonna be
Well,
gored as we move forward?
Yeah, we
Kind of
did,
look at
Dave
the whole
did,
landscape when we're thinking about
Dave
it.
did present that in the last Water Bureau
thought
meeting.
we had-
Yes, he
yeah.
had all of that there.
Yeah,
Yes,
and I thought we did.
yes, we did, and we would
But we're no
apply it.
closer to figuring out what the cost is for the safe yield.
The reason why, well, I would tell you, it's, for me, it's really simple. The operational budget for the MDC's water system is $100 million. And we only utilize half of that, right? We only are selling 45 MGD. So in my opinion, $50 million is what it costs to maintain that other portion of that safe yield. I mean, and that's my simple answer. It might not be correct, but in my view, the MDC is spending $100 million to maintain everything we do, which includes the safe yield of our system. And we're only selling 45 MGD a day, 47 MGD a day, 48 MGD this coming year. And so it's only half of the capacity of the system. So the other half, in my opinion, is the other 50 million. So we shouldn't be giving it away for free to anybody.
Well, on that equation, what would be the cost of 1.1 MGD safe yield? Using your 100 million operational budget.
Well, it's tough to say. It's tough to say because it's only one customer, right? You'd have to apply that to every customer that's in this bucket, you know, that is getting safe yield. And there's not many of them. How many are there, Dave? 8?
Like 5, yeah.
Oh, five. So there's only 5. So, I mean, it would be astronomical to say you're going to pay.
No, I was just asking you based on the equation you were.
Yeah, no, it's a
using,
bad
right?
equation. I'm just saying it's complicated, Commissioner, to answer that question because you only have 5 customers that and New Britain is one of them, right? The raw water agreement. So you have to, you couldn't apply that to just those 5 because it would be astronomical for them to pay for the safe yield. I'm going to give you an example. Connecticut Water and Regional, so Regional's just like us in New Haven, they sold, this is about 10 years ago, maybe a little more, they sold 1 million gallons a day of safe yield to Connecticut Water. Regional sells their share of their safe yield by contract, 1 million gallons a day for $1 million for 10 years. So in my opinion, that's a bad deal, right? Because it's only costing them $100,000 a year. But our solution is if you up the requirement of take or pay, you make triple. You're making 400 versus raising the rate. Even if we raise the rate by 30%, based on Dave's numbers, 30% is 200 some odd bucks, right? 200 some odd thousand. So you're still making more by raising the consumption mandate without charging them a penny more for their water. You're still paying the same $3.80. So the argument would be, my argument would be to Portland, well, you guys want our safe yield, but you don't want to pay for it. And we're saying we're not going to charge you for it. We're just going to say you got to take more water. And then for at least 2 years, or raising the rate to a number and leaving the take or pay at 400,000.
Okay.
Thank you. And I just go back again, Dave, John, to the fact that, we've got Glastonbury who's got arsenic in their water. We got Manchester, it's got PFAS. You're going up north. More and more of our communities in the area are finding polluted water, and they're going to want it. And we can't bank 1 million gallons into somebody else's account and not have access to it. Because at some point, maybe not while we're still here, but at some point, we're not going to have enough water for everybody that wants it in the state.
And I don't disagree at all. So I think we just got to come up with what's a reasonable
Yeah,
It's almost like a futures contract is what
you're absolutely right.
we're asking the town of Portland, look, it's in your best interest to have a futures contract with us where you can demand a certain amount of water 20 years from now, but we got to set a price for it.
Yeah, and we're on the cuff because as Scott said, this is the only contract that we can renegotiate or negotiate a new contract because we're locked out of all the other ones for our lifetime. That are all of us sitting around the table, or almost all of us.
Hopefully not.
So,
Definitely not, John.
we just waived an assessment for $59,000 for a sewer hookup in Windsor.
Yep.
And we noticed them. We noticed them that when you do want to hook up down the road, it's going to cost you a hell of a lot more money. So I'm thinking that with Portland, if we're going to go 600 take or pay, that we also notify them that after 2 years, this isn't an automatic renewal, that, you're not hooking up now, we're not increasing your rate, that be prepared because in the future it may change. You can't assume that we're going to continue 2-year contracts in perpetuity.
Yeah, and if I may, Mr. Chairman, what we're planning to do, we wanted some guidance from the Water Bureau, and then we are planning to actually send a draft contract that the Water Bureau supports, which would include terms for the short term, this 2-year that they've requested, and then we could also offer, as Dave showed, some long term if tried to entice them to stay with the MDC. But we'd absolutely do that. But the one thing I think we are going to say, we've already said, is if they want a 2-year contract, and that's all they want, and the board agrees to do X, whatever that is, it's also going to include, we're not going to renew the diversion permit at 1.1 because how long often do you have to redo the diversion permit, Dave?
25 years.
25 years? Oh, wrong answer. But there is was that?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
Thank you. But my point is that really, we're giving away something for free, and everybody else is paying for it, and it should be. And to the chairman's point, we can't sell it to anybody else. And we're already having conversations with Manchester right now about their concerns with PFAS. We've had conversations. Who came in? Cromwell came in. PFAS will become a problem for other utilities in the future, and we're going to need to. This is an opportunity to get out from under a mandate of the 1.1, but it is, and we're not threatening it. It's just it's fair. We shouldn't have to secure that for someone who's not willing to pay for it.
Very good. Obviously, we need to talk some more about this, and this is a good start.
What we would like to do is to give some. I guess we're looking for direction. Like, what would you like us to do? Would you like us to provide an option with increase the take or pay, or would you like us to look at a combination of increasing the take or pay and raising the rate? I definitely think we should lower the daily safe yield demand of 1.1. But I guess before we draft anything and send it to Portland, we'd like some guidance on where we start.
Commissioner Gardo?
Yeah, Commissioner Gardo here. Can you go to slide 5, please? Which is the proposal. So the short-term extension, this is what you're recommending?
They asked for.
This is what Portland asked for?
Yes, they only want a 2-year extension because they feel their well will be up and running in 3 years.
So
They asked for 600,000?
No,
They don't agree to those terms.
they've asked us for basically they just wanted us to extend their contract for 2 years at the existing terms, and we said no.
All right, so this was what Portland's proposal was.
In terms
No.
of length, just in terms of.
Just 2
In
years.
terms of length, all right.
We,
So I heard earlier that the 600,000 take or pay is up from 400,000.
Correct.
Okay, so the safe yield, okay, because that seems to be a concern, all right? We're in a little bit of a drought, I don't know, but does that have to be that steep for a 2-year, a 2-year extension?
No, we could
Because I
lower that.
see it being 0.7. So
Yeah, we could lower that.
increase the take or pay, make the safe yield go down. That's what I would, after hearing all this discussion, all right? Because if you can't sell to anyone else, make that number go down, but they got to take more. So what's that difference then? You know, what would the, could we swap? We could sell to anyone that,
Yeah.
in the future, but make that number go to 600,000, make the safe yield go down.
And if I may, Commissioner, the reason why we didn't change the 1.1 right yet is because we're trying to encourage Portland to stay with us. So, and Dave just explained to me the $6 million. We just found it out this past week. So, but we were trying to, in this short term, we're trying to encourage Portland to stay with us for a long term. But given the fact that they have already moved forward and approved the $6 million, absolutely, we could lower that number.
Yeah, and like, if I may,
Please,
Mr.
I'm sorry.
Chairman, and I agree with Commissioner Gale, I don't want to make this a bad breakup, okay?
Right,
Okay,
right.
and what half the dog you get, okay, or whatever, okay? So, we don't want angry folks in Portland and letters to the editor, not that anyone reads the paper anymore, but by increasing rates, okay, you can do it through, by the yield, so.
Okay. And once we reduce that safe yield to say 700,000, that's where it stays, right? That can't
Well, we
go
wouldn't
back up?
reduce it right away, right? We'd have to sign a new contract.
Right.
So right now, they'd have the 1.1 for this next year. And then we would submit this to them in a draft, letter saying, here's our proposal for, contract January 2026, 2027, right? 2 years. And here's what it is. And if they say, great, which I think they have to, I don't really think they have a choice. Otherwise, they can, it will be a negotiation.
Negotiation.
It will be. But I think we're not going to make any decisions unless the Water Bureau and the board agrees on whatever that contract looks like. They obviously got to go through a process too with their council, and we're just looking for a starting point that we think the board thinks is fair. We think it's fair because we don't believe we're gouging them. We're just asking them to take the water that we've saved for them for years, and and if they chose at some point to continue on with a long-term contract, we don't even know, honestly. I've asked a couple of times, what are you looking for? You got a well, you got 2 million gallons a day, that's all you need. What would a long-term contract look like? They can't tell me,
Well, they're hedging their bet.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's another follow-on discussion. But I think the first issue we're trying to address with them is what they asked for. We only want a 2-year extension, which would be, after January of 2026.
Those numbers wouldn't change even if we brought the safe yield number down?
No, the take or pay decides how much they're paying us.
Okay.
Yeah. But if we brought the safe yield down, now we've got, 400,000 gallons a day to sell to somebody else. And that goes to Manchester or whoever.
Okay. All right, good. I think would you say that's our
Can we go with the short-term extension and just take the safe yield down to $500,000?
Oh, lower?
Well, we can't because it's
Can't do lower.
600,000.
Can't go
So
below
you can't blow 600,000.
The safe yield includes.
Okay, well, I wrote take or pay 500,000 and safe yield 500,000, which net is 85,000 increase. But if you can't go below 6 then go 6 and 6.
I mean, we can go 5 if you'd like. We could say take or pay 5.
No, start high.
Yeah,
You're gonna
right,
be,
right,
I
exactly.
have to say, we're sitting here in public session negotiating.
Right, right.
No end.
Yeah, right.
Just tune in tomorrow, Portland.
And you don't have a quorum.
Without beating this to death, let me throw out one other thing. No discussion on it. Go back and think. Come up with a formula that says something along the lines of the higher your take and pay, the lower the cost of the safe yield. So that if you want 1.1 million safe yield, we're going to charge you for every 100,000. It's got a price. But if you take more, take or pay, the cost of the safe yield goes down.
Unlike what Regional did with A Connecticut Water.
I don't know exactly, but I think there might be some profit in thinking about a formula that does that they could then sit there and decide, okay, if we take more, it's going to, this is going to be our ultimate cost. Where do we want to end up?
Okay. Very good. All right, so let's just go to the next item, and then I'm.
So just to clarify those, so
Yeah.
we're all clear.
Okay.
So we're gonna develop something. We're going to send it in a draft format to Portland for discussion points. We're not gonna obviously agree with anything without the board agreeing. And, because that contract would have to be approved by the board. So, but we're gonna move.
I'd only suggest no long-term contract.
Yeah, okay. So we'll just look for the short term, this 2-year contract they've asked for, and we'll leave the long-term contract alone.
Okay.
Is that okay? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, great.
And then anything we send will be subject to approval of this board.
Yes.
Full board.
Right.
In executive session next time.
They already know. We've already talked.
That's true.
Okay, so item 8, and then with since seeing the late hour here, I think items 9 through, 12, whether we just move to the next meeting, without any objection, of course. Okay, report regarding 2025 billing for miscellaneous water rates and charges.
Kelly Chain, Chief Administrative Officer. I will be quick.
All right.
I just wanted to share with you, like we shared with the BPW, the rate increases. There were very few this year on the water side. Obviously, the water rate has increased this year. You all have your budget books. Our water budget increased by about 6% overall. And that resulted in an 11-cent water rate increase. Just as a reminder, we haven't increased the water rate in a couple of years. We actually decreased it 2 years ago. We had a 409 water rate, I think, in 22, if I'm not 22. And we decreased it in 2023 to 380. We held that rate in 24 at 380. So we've increased it this year as a result of our increase in expenses. The biggest expense in our current water budget is the increase in debt service payments on the water side of $5 million this year. Everything we bonded, or a majority of the bonding that we did this past year and this summer, was water projects, and therefore an increase in our water debt service. So that 11-cent increase also falls to the industrial water rate, where we increased our water rate for our water. We also increased the industrial water rate by the same 11 cents. That's consistent with what we do each year. Hydrant maintenance, we have public and private hydrant maintenance costs. Our cost of service is well above the $165, which we are increasing by $10 this year. We have shared that with all of our member town managers through the finance committee meeting with our town managers the day after our finance meeting, committee meeting, where we shared the budget proposal. We have kept it consistent, increasing our hydrant maintenance costs by $5 a year for the last 5 years. The last time we increased it by $10 was in 2019. However, our cost of service has been going up dramatically over the last several years. We're really at about $180, but we don't want to increase it like that for our member towns who have a large amount of public hydrants, and also for those customers who have private hydrants that we have agreements with. So we're trying to do this slowly, but this year we thought it was time to increase it by $10. We got no pushback from the member town managers at our first budget meeting. The meter pits. So we have 1.5 and 2 inch water meter pits. Typically in past years, we have always billed. These are meter pits for developers. These are out of courtesy. These are the meter pits that we use ourselves, and we are now stocking them and providing them on demand to developers who might want to purchase them from us. In the past, we have used them as, we have charged them as per cost, and then added, have we charged these per cost in the past? Yeah, at cost. And sometimes those developers have had to wait for them. We now stock them for our developers as well. So we've put a specific fixed charge on those, and this is for both bypass valves. Are they bypass valves? See that? Kelly's learning all this stuff. Bypass valves or without a bypass valve, and we've fixed price those for our water rates instead of at cost. And the last fee is a fee that is near and dear to my heart. We used to have a closing meter read fee. This is literally to, I guess, up until about 2016, 2017, we used to send our meter readers out for when we had a property change of ownership and a closing. We would work with the closing attorneys for a property change of ownership. And we would go out and get a final read the day of the property closing. We stopped doing that, and we did some system changes and in our system, and we started estimating based on the last meter reading, and then we estimated the next month's reading, and we always had an over or an underestimate. Well, for the last several years, having done those estimated reads for closings, it has caused a lot of administrative support on the back end of dealing with those closings, including having to issue refunds, having to deal with closings that don't happen, but we've already closed the accounts. We have to send out manual final bills sometimes, and we also lose track of the seller who is owed a credit, and we end up having to do the due diligence to find that seller. Sometimes we can't, and we end up escheating those funds, and those credits could be as little as 10 cents, but we're obligated to find them. So there's a lot of administration behind that property change of ownership from one seller to the other. So this fee was there on the resolution until about 2019 when it fell off because we weren't charging it. So we wanted to put that back on our resolution and back on our rate sheet. Same fee that we charged all the way back to like 2016, but we wanted to change the name of it. Instead of a closing meter read fee, we want to change it to property change of ownership admin fee. And that's a new fee, but it's an old fee.
And in addition to that, we have 400 closings a month.
Yep, that's 4,800.
So this is about 800?
$528,000 worth of revenue a year.
Which is included in our budget. So
We did.
that fee is an expected revenue for this coming year.
True.
so I guess we have no problem with that.
No, we don't. Just a quick question.
Of course, yes, please.
Who pays the ownership administration fee, the seller or the buyer?
It would be charged at closing, so it would most likely be paid by the seller.
Okay, good.
Have to budget for that.
They're getting a big check.
They keep going after us, John.
However, I guess they could negotiate who pays
There
it,
you go.
right? I don't really care.
That's true.
No, don't leave it up to negotiation. That's,
No, not me. I guess the closing attorneys would deal with
no,
that.
don't leave it, no. Charge it to the owner. As an attorney who does a lot of real estate. closing,
Yeah, no,
all
it
you're
would be
doing
on the
is
final bill. It would be on the final bill to the
rely on
seller.
Creating chaos.
We used to rely on the lawyers to send us a check.
Yeah.
I know, you know.
It will be on the final bill to the seller. It will be.
That's
I only
much
ask
better.
because I've had a lot of conversations in the past 2 weeks with owners of properties that they rent. And they're very unhappy with MDC for sending the water bills to the owner and not the renter. So charge the seller.
Very good. Okay, so then we move those items to next week. We'll just, opportunity for general public comment. Anyone still awake? No one? No one's online? Okay, very good. Commissioner requests for future agenda items?
Yeah, shorter meetings.
Okay,
Start on time.
yeah, there you go. Thank you. All right, then motion to adjourn, please. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect.